What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Happy Saturday to y'all. I hope y'all are either crushing trials or crushing GMs right here to get yourself that Lotus Eater Adept, absolutely disgusting void rocket sidearm. But with that, we're going to help you through it with a nice Arc Warlock build, actually, using some of the new perks from our artifact that allow trace rifles to be meta actually in the PvE realm, which is a first in quite some time besides some exotics, with the fallen Sunstar as well on this Arc Warlock. So we got the Ionic Conductor as our armor perk. Ionic traces you create move faster and grant us additional ability energy. Nearby allies also gain ability energy when we collect Ionic traces, so we're going to try to get as much of that going on as possible with the stats that we have: 100 in resilience, 100 in that recovery, with 50 in our discipline, intellect, and 60 in our strength, just making the build all around rounded out, if you will. Now we move on to our Stormcaller subclass. We're going to go with the Chaos Reach actually for that jolting potential. Stunning overloads and definitely is juicy for the DPS. Obviously a little bit better with Geomax, but still a very good super since we're using that fallen Sunstar, as well as Electrostatic Mine, being able to get us a bunch of ability energy as well as Ionic traces. I went with the Healing Rift Strafe Glide. I like Ball Lightning right here because we're becoming amplified very easily with this build, so it's going to do some additional lightning strikes before detonation, as well as Pulse Grenade. Like I've said before, definitely my favorite grenade for the PvE realm, especially since its duration. Shock ability down here with Spark of Shot being able to jolt us, and with Ionic Sentry gonna be also super juicy because defeating targets with kinetic or arc weapons or arc abilities charge up an arc turret for us that periodically chains lightnings between targets, as well as creates stacks of bolt charge for us with each hit. Super nice with that, because on top of all of that, all of those defeats with our Ionic Sentry is going to give us that Electrostatic Mine to proc, which is going to give us even more Ionic traces. Super beautiful in my personal opinion. As for our fragments, we got ourselves the Feedback, Magnitude, Spark of Shock, and Resistance. So when we're surrounded, we're going to take less damage. Like I said, our grenade is going to cause Jolt, which will again help us to proc Electrostatic Mine. We are going to have a duration of this going to be even increased with that Pulse Grenade, and then Feedback right here, taking melee damage is going to increase our melee damage output with Ball of Lightning, and it's already pretty juiced because of the amount of amplification we're getting on this build and how quick that's going to happen. On to the weapons that we are going to be using right here. I went with the Call Sidearm so we can stun those barrier champions, plus we're going to have a Slice 1 for all on this bad boy, so Slice is going to help us to sever targets on top of that. For me, I went with the Lodestar right here, which pairs with the Arc synergy of this build pretty good because it can also jolt targets, which will add 2 Ionic traces that we're going to get. I'm almost to that 145 on our pass, so I can get the beautiful, just kidding, I'm only at 124. I thought I was higher, but so we can get, finally we can get the catalyst for this, still behind the battle pass, but we will get there ASAP for y'all. And then I went with the Scintillation. I absolutely butchered that, just roast me in the comments, but we got Rewind and Bait and Switch on this bad boy, so juice in the DPS with the Strand synergy on this. I could have thrown on an Arc one, but I do like the Strand synergy that we're going to have with this build because of stuff that we have on the artifact as well. Now with those weapons, we're going to be able to stun all 3 of our champions because of Overload, Unstoppable, as well as Piercing Sidearms. So we're going to have Powerful Friends. Collecting Orbs of Power going to give us and our nearby allies that armor charge, giving us a bunch of Orbs of Power with Harmonic Siphon, Strand Siphon, as well as that Reaper, with all of those Orbs of Power that we're collecting with the powerful attractions actually. So when we throw down our rift, every one of those Orbs of Power that are close to us is going to automatically collect to us, which again, we're going to be using that personally for this right here with Special Ammo Finishers. So when we do finishers on those strong targets, we are going to be able to generate special ammo for the entire team, as well as on our boots right here, we're going to have Recuperation, Absolution, as well as Orbs of Restoration. So we're going to be able to get back our abilities with these 2 right here by picking up orbs, as well as some health every time we do that, so it feeds into an internal feedback loop right there. On top of that, we're going to have bolstering, momentum, and impact induction, so again, feeding into our abilities, giving back to each other. So powered melee is going to give us grenade is going to give us melee, as well as grenade is going to give us back our rift. Last but not least, on our chest piece is our damage resistance. Like I said, this GM right here in the PsyOps battleground is super heavy in arc and sniper, so that's what I personally went with, but you can really switch these out for any type of content that you're going into, depending on the burns and stuff like that. But for this GM, this is what I found to be the best. You could substitute out sniper resistance for void because of those unstoppable ogres and shriekers if you would like. Last but certainly not least, right here we got ourselves the Tablet of Ruin with our new perks down here in our last row that we got. So we're going to go with Unstoppable Fusion, Piercing Sidearm, as well as those Overload Trace Rifles. We're actually going to use all of the new perks down here. So Beam Medic, when we rapidly defeat targets with those Trace Rifle that we're going to be using in the Lodestar, we're going to get health for us as well as those nearby allies. Elemental Siphon, Rapid Final Blows with Kinetic Weapon or a weapon matching our super type. So for us, it is going to be that Lodestar giving us elemental pickups, so even more ionic traces. When we pick them up, we're going to get super energy, so super nice with that boost that we got going on with this. Harsh Refraction, those trace rifles are going to do more damage against targets afflicted by elemental damage, so for us, going to be a bunch of jolting going on, and even with our trace rifle itself is going to be able to add jolting to targets, so pairs perfectly right here with this artifact. And then Limit Break, casting our super while we're critically wounded or when we have an elemental buff. So for us, Amplified gonna be what we're using. It's going to do more damage for us, which is super nice because already Chaos is pretty good, doing a lot of damage, but Limit Break is going to add to that. I went with Unraveling Orbs right here, so all of the orbs or tangles that we pick up and break is going to grant us unraveling rounds, so both our linear fusion as well as our rocket powered sidearm is going to have this procced on it all the time basically. Overclock and load, amplification, or bolt charges, well, we have those. Arc weapons are going to gain increased handling and reload, so that is for our Lodestar. Dielectric right here, definitely one of the better ones. Defeating arc debuff targets grants us bolt charges, so not only are those arc debuff targets going to be able to have more damage to them by trace rifles, but they're going to give us even more of that bolt charges, and bolt charges are disgusting inside of this episode right here with a flashover on top of that. One of the reasons why bolt charges are so disgusting: when we have maximum bolt charges and we are amplified, lightning bolts deal additional damage, so adding to the add clear potential of this build, being able to defeat some of those higher ranked targets, not just rank and final. And last but certainly not least, particle reconstruction, so our linear fusion is going to be able to partially refill its magazine from reserves and also grant bonus damage on a target if we do sustained damage on it, so adding to the DPS output potential of this build, being able to basically like weaken a target, if you will, so they can do more damage. Super nice in this GM, super nice in endgame in general, and this build fits really anything. Like I said, if you can get through this GM, which is easily one of the hardest ones in the game, we got a couple other that suck a lot as well, but the PsyOps in general are some of the harder ones, as well as those battlegrounds that we got. If you can get through it with these builds, you can get through any type of content, in my opinions. Anything like raids as well. Raids are easier in my opinion for the most part than GMs, just you got to know the mechanics for a raid rather than tough enemies get one-shot, stuff like that. Unless you're doing like a master raid, those can get a little bit tricky and you need a solid team, but this will help carry you and your team through it. You're going to have your super up a bunch, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage with your linear fusion as well as that Lodestar, and the Lodestar is only going to get better once we unlock that catalyst at rank 145 on the battle pass, I believe it's going to be. So we're almost there, got about 20 more levels to go. Shouldn't be too terribly long after I play a lot this weekend, and tonight hopefully I'll be pretty close to it, if not already there. Got some bounties, stuff like that to turn in, but definitely Warlocks, give this build a try. Go crush that GM, go get yourself one of these Lotus Eaters, the Void rocket powered sidearm. So we finally got all of our burns now, and this thing is pretty juicy with that destabilizing repulsor brace on it, being able to give us overshield and those volatilities. So love it. Hopefully you guys do as well. And like I said, let me know how you guys feel about it. Definitely don't be afraid to like, subscribe, slap that bell if you haven't. Join up on the Discord. Helps me out, helps the channel out. Plus Discord, trying to get that popping, trying to do helps a little bit more often with these GMs, raids, stuff like that. More in the dungeon and GM side of things. Raids sometimes hard to get 6 people, but definitely going to be trying. And then also on that Discord, going to be trying to do a little bit more community stuff, movie watches, anime watching, stuff like that. So trying to get that popping. But again, really appreciate you guys. I hope y'all have a good Saturday. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.